Hello for the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The Gospel in the first reading. The first reading, 1 Kings 19, 16 to 21. And the Gospel is Luke 9, 51 to 62. Short but sweet, hopefully. There's one little incident in that Gospel that really gets me interested. And that is the response of James and John, Christ's two best friends, Peter, James, and John. And they go into the villages to try to get a meeting place and be accepted, and the people turn them down. And they are livid with the people. And so they go back to Jesus. They go back to Jesus and ask him a question in their anger. And they say, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them? Fire from heaven to consume them? That's a polite way of saying go to hell. And even worse than that, that's a abusive way of saying God damn you. For God to damn you is the opposite of what Jesus is all about. And to tell a person to go to hell is the opposite what God has in store for you or what Jesus preaches. And so those polite forms, so many people use these two expressions, and I just feel them when they use them, but they really do not know what they're saying. They can be surprised, or they can be a little bit perturbed, or they can just sort of even make fun of you and say, go to hell. Or really angry and say, God damn you. It's the opposite of the message of Jesus. Even if we don't even know what we're saying. And many people don't. It's so habitual. It's so automatic. But if you take it for what it is really saying, it's really no different than James and John saying, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from the heavens to consume them? Think of that. Sometimes when people come and they say they use vulgar language, that's one thing, but they usually say, if they're cursing, they use, they say cursing for vulgar and they get them all mixed up. But the real thing is, here Jesus is in Luke's gospel. And it starts out with the call of John the Baptist and the beginning of all his mission. And then Jesus in Jerusalem. And Jesus, the first half of his life of schooling these men in his message and getting all of these people to follow him and accept him. And he would do great things for them, some of the miracles. And this is in the middle of his ministry. And he leaves the Sea of Galilee area and the Jerusalem area, and he goes to these more foreign places, and he's not well received. And neither are the apostles or his disciples not well received. And so they try to be received, and they're repulsed. And James and John want these people in this gospel, well, should we just tell them to go to hell? Should we just use our terminology, God damn you? Jesus rebuts them. He goes and he rebukes them. And Jesus is saying, that's not what I'm all about. And right at that time is in the middle of Luke's gospel. And he decides there and then that he needs to now to leave this area where he's not well accepted. And he needs to go back into Jerusalem to suffer and die and do the work that the Father has sent him to do. And he's trying to school these people to do the work that he's trying to tell and explain and show. And they have to be total disciples and not turn back and not still be too interested in the family is more important than this message. And they have all kinds of other wild statements in the gospel too. Let the dead bury the dead. It's a wild statement. But he's saying, I want you to be more concerned about us telling the people what I told you, you are my disciple, than your family, even your marriage, even your everything. Or go sell all you have. And all of those wild statements that Jesus makes. I don't know what and how you use such phrases as hell or God damning phrases or whatever, but just think about that. Sometimes in people when they confess this, I say, okay, for your penance, why don't you take those names that you are using against other people, the name of God, say, and use them in talking to God and not using that name in condemning other people. I think it's a good thought. I think we use many expressions, many words, and say many terrible things, and we don't even know we're saying it. They become so habitual, so everyday, that we don't even know how we're treating other people. Jesus knew how James and John were treating these people in the village, and he immediately rebuked them. You're going to be my disciple. I'm going to ask you to go all the way and be ready to give up everything for what I'm asking you to do. Once again, idealism, but that's what he's asking James and John. And that's why he's rebuking James and John. Think about it. Think about those two phrases. We'll talk about burying the dead, let the dead bury their own dead at another time. Think of those two phrases, what you hear in everyday life, or even maybe some of them you might even use in your everyday life. Have a good day.